Bicki Smith is an educator that is developing a business plan. Bicki, please give us a short summary of what you are proposing to do with your business.
Well, my business is called Creative Spaces for Kids, and it's a place for both parents and kids to come to learn about art and creative thinking. And how I'm presenting that is with some course material directly for the children so that they can look at materials and activities and ideas related to art instruction, art skills, creative thinking skills. And then I have a coaching program that will help and assist parents in encouraging their children and helping their children expand their creative confidence. And so it's an exciting business that I'm really excited about taking this to the world.
Okay, great. What is your philosophy of education?
My philosophy of education started a lot of years ago. I think it was in my early 20s, and probably started way before that when I was a student in elementary school with some amazing teachers. But in my 20s, I had this vision of a school that was a community center, a resource center for families. And so the families would come to those schools and they would contract with teachers and experts to tutor and coach their children, and that library resources would be there and available for the parents, the grandparents, the whole community to be able to have access to education and learning. But it would be not a place of lecture and classrooms where it was always filled up in the traditional sense, more a place where a parent would come in and say, I don't have any expertise in math, and I'd really like to help my child, and they would contract with the math expert in the school, and they would take a look at what it was, the gaps in the child's learning, help with that, and then the parents and the children would work together with this expert to help their education, get their confidence in math skills developed and worked. And then that would be broad across all subject areas.
What experience have you had in teaching children?
Well, I've taught children from preschool right through high school in various subjects. I've also taught adults in further education, and I've done this in both public setting and in private school setting. I've taught thousands of children in the elementary school system with art and creative thinking, both private and public.
Okay, judging from your experience, what are some of the main differences between teaching adults and teaching children?
One of the things I really believe in is that the student is the one who makes the choice for learning and for education. And adults generally, when coming to a class, they've opted in. They've made that choice to learn. And so they're committed to doing the work to be able to learn in that classroom setting. With children, that's not always the case. Sometimes they are in school, not by choice, but they have to be there. Especially when you start to get into junior high and high school settings, some of these kids feel like they're being forced to go to school, and so sometimes they just opt out of class. And I found in teaching elementary school, I had a few children who really, they opted out. They had to be in their seats. But essentially, emotionally and mentally, they had opted out of learning. And that creates some challenges there. Children who opt in and choose learning, along with adults who opt in and choose learning, they're both amazing and wonderful to work with because they're there, they're engaged, they're involved. And the one thing that happens with children, sometimes their attention span is not as long as an adult's attention span. But I have found that adult or child, once they get really focused and engaged in the learning process or the project that they're working on, they can go for long periods of time being engaged and fully focused. one of the things that I found with children, well, talking about similarities, children, 3 tasks is probably quite adequate. They will follow through, but the amazing thing is I found out the military has done research, and they found out that with their soldiers, the most productive way to handle instructions to their soldiers is 3 tasks. Start getting beyond 3 tasks, and the task ends up being dropped off so that they are not being as effective and efficient. So I think that goes right across the spectrum, of age spectrum, is keeping a set of tasks to 3, and then once that is completed, then moving on and keeping information in small chunks works better, both for the young learner and for the adult learner. So that has been my experience with some of the similarities that happen there. One of the things that happens with adults is they have a lot more experience to bring to whatever subject that you're talking about or learning about, more so than children. And so sometimes you have to give children more fundamentals and elements, the fundamental kinds of concepts and skills as a base for them to be able to explore. Children seem to be more free to explore and play than adults. Adults have a hard time sometimes entering into play, which happens to be, as far as I'm concerned, one of the primary skills for learning. We learn faster when we play, and if an adult is getting into a subject area they really don't know very much about, the best way to learn is to play, and that is an area where they have challenges and problems.
Okay, so you've actually covered both differences and similarities in teaching adults and children. Let's turn now to technology. How has technology impacted the teaching of children and adults?
It's been a huge impact, because I taught when there was not much of this modern day technology of computers. And so a lot of my work as I worked with children was very definitely hands-on. And because I am an art instructor, art teacher, artist, a lot of my work with students is hands-on. But they're getting to the internet and they're starting to take advantage of technology and creating art. And so it's been a lot of fun as I have started working with kids with art and technology, helping them find how to create presentation programs with photographs that they have gone out and taken. And the wonderful thing about the technology with photography is you can give a student, a child, a camera and have them go take photos, and you're not having to worry about the expense of film and the expense of developing that film and getting that available and then scanning it and getting it into a format so that you can cut and paste it to papers and that type of thing. This is something that makes it an amazing, amazing tool, not only in the art room, but also in the math and in literature, in history, those kinds of things. Tasks can be set up, learning kinds of activities where they can use a camera to go out and get some photographs that help them get really, really engaged in the learning process and be able to very easily put that into a computer format or onto the computer so that they can play with it, either developing a document or developing a presentation program, and get them really engaged. And I think it's really an exciting, technology is exciting and wonderful that way, just in the classroom setting. Then there is getting on the internet and being able to interact on the internet with the information that's coming in, getting ideas, amazing ideas on the internet of creative people, and it helps to expand that for the student.
Okay, if I understand correctly, you plan to set up e-learning and online classes teaching art to homeschool children and also classes for their parents to aid them in coaching their children through the art lessons. How do you plan to apply what you've learned about teaching children and adults in those two scenarios?
Well, the coaching part that I'll be doing with parents is a system where there will be instruction, video instruction, plus actual phone connection or on-the-ground classroom setting where I will be working with the parents, helping them to see some of the techniques and some of the practices that can help them encourage their children in the learning, and then taking that and going online with their kids to the e-course and seeing what is there and then encouraging and expanding that for the students, helping them through the technology, helping them to engage at home with the material that they've learned online. So when I'm working online, it's not just a talking head like I am right now, but that there's information given, then there's assignments and opportunities to go out and do some activities that will help them with hands-on learning and being fully engaged in the process physically and mentally in that process, as well as emotionally, so that all of that is involved. And then coming back and doing some feedback. And so this is something that I'm wanting to do with both the parents and the children, so that there's a lot of engagement going on, that it's not just sitting in front of the computer screen and watching something and taking some notes and that's it. They need to be able to be engaged, going out and playing and doing some stuff, coming back, and then reporting and sharing what they've learned in that process.
Okay, what advice do you have for educators interested in teaching online classes to children and adults?
One of the things that I have learned in my research in the last couple of years, and also observation, is keep the learning modules short and simple. Try to keep it to 1 or 2 learning tasks, and then have them go do and participate and get involved, and then come back and report. It's a little bit different than what happens in the classroom. When I was teaching adults computer skills, that was just totally new to them. We would sit in the classroom and then I would show them how it was done. Then I would walk them through doing it so that they would have to do this, so that it would help to get that memory into their fingers, into their body, into their brains. And because we're all learners that deal with auditory, visual, and kinesthetic, and we need to have all 3 of those, even though each of us has one that's more dominant that helps us in the learning process. But if we can get all 3 of those going for every individual, then that helps. And so on the internet, so much of it is visual that we need to incorporate, visual and auditory, we need to incorporate some of that tactile kinesthetic.
Okay. Thank you very much for the interview, Bicki. We wish you the best in your business enterprise, and thank you again.
You're most welcome. Happy to do that for you.